Welcome back to Bonanza Disc Golf, round 4 of the Kansas City Flying Disc Challenge. I'm very tired. Still in the cash. 15th, 3 strokes off of top 10, which is what we're shooting for now. Honestly, mainly just gonna try to stay in the cash. I'm very tired. Missed a lot of circle 1 putts last round, unfortunately. Made some circle 2s. Gonna try to keep it cleaner, a little bit better off the tee, and just hopefully have a solid round. I don't need to shoot crazy lights out. I'm very tired, so if I just shoot a solid round, I'll be happy. But try not to miss inside the circle, really focus up, get my chest high, and commit through, because I was not following through when I missed. Starting on hole number 4 again. Playing with some buddies, so that should be fun. But let's get into hole number 1. Hopefully continue cashing, maybe get another 1,000 rated round. Why not? So here we are starting on hole number 4. It's a 279-foot par 3, kind of just over this hill and a little bit down to the right. I'm deciding to throw an origin here because this is what I threw during my practice round and really like the shot because there's a slight low ceiling on the left side, just a slight hyzer flip. End up just putting it on a little bit too much hyzer, and I think this is on me not really knowing the hyzer flip points. I've said that enough in these videos. I don't need to reiterate that point again. That's why we're probably going to be seeing a lot of anhyzers. I threw it straight through everything. Maybe should have given this an actual better bid because I was honestly trying to just put it under the basket, which I did a good job of. But looking at that back, I'm like, maybe if I try to throw it a little bit farther, I might actually be able to make that for a birdie. But I guess I wasn't in that aggressive of a mood, and you can probably see that from the start of this round, the way I introed it. I was really just thinking, I want to get out of this tournament. I'm not going to win. It'll be really hard for me to get a top 10. Hole 5 is 303 feet uphill. I'm actually trying to force over a Firebird. Got a really lucky kick. And I think this is a testament to the card. You probably heard in the background there, everyone just cheering for good kicks and good shots. And that's kind of how it was all day. I played with Jonathan Fletcher, Hans Coleman, and Michael Babbitt, all 990 guys. And I just have noticed that the higher rated players that you play with, the more everyone just cheers for each other because they want to just beat the people at their best, not at their worst. And so it was a lot of fun to be able to play with these guys. We were just a blast of a card, moving us into hole number 6, 204 feet right up the hill. Very small gap to hit, so I'm going origin again. That's just the second, slightly left, slightly too hyzered release. Probably has a lot to do with me being tired, and you can probably see that a little bit on my face, but also just a little bit of extra frustration. Pitch up a zone, which these standstill slight force overs or flex shots not been going too well. A little bit more hyzer on the release. Honestly, I've noticed that going uphill, I tend to release a little more in hyzer than I'd like, but it's a relatively simple tap-in for the 3. Which I end up actually just putting nose down. I looked back at that putt a couple times because I was like, what is actually wrong with that? And it seems like everything went pretty well, except my hand didn't fully open up. It opened out, and the nose was pretty down on that putt. So let's hope to clean that up. It brings us back to neutral putting for the weekend, which you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, meaning that so far for the whole entire weekend over these 4 rounds, I have made exactly as many circle 2 putts as I've missed circle 1 putts. I want to be positive putting on the weekend, so hopefully we can drain a circle 2 if we give ourselves any more. But this drive was super frustrating. 510-foot par 4. You want to get to this landing zone that you're seeing just to the right of me. I thought I threw the perfect shot with my Echo Stardust Story, just a really smooth forehand. But that disc goes very far, and you've always heard it, slow is smooth and smooth is far. That was such a smooth shot that just kind of juiced the landing zone, unfortunately. So I'm stepping out here behind my lie. I'm thinking about throwing my Ultra, my Honor, but I decided to go with my Color Glow Strike, which is slightly more stable, so I can turn it down this gap and have it glide all the way down there. Because when you're on a knee, you're not going to be able to get as much torque or force into it. I didn't really feel like I needed to force over a 9-speed. But I could have even gone a little bit flippier, as we saw, because it didn't really stay turned down that gap. Probably a little bit of angle control and a little bit of snap issues. But we have a putt over these bushes, which I'm going to try to run a little bit from circle 2. Maybe it would have been better if I didn't tell you that I was trying to run that putt, but we got to be honest here on the channel. We tap in for a par, which is really not bad because I thought it was going to be par at best from my lie, and so luckily I was able to take it relatively simply. Hole number 8 is 192-foot par 3, really trying to get on that birdie train, throwing my zone just around this corner. There is not OB, but a very bad ditch to go in long and right, so I wanted to finish to the left, which is why I threw the zone instead of just like a hyzer with an MB or something. And we're able to tap in that birdie putt, which is kind of like that good feeling first putt of the day, maybe about 20 feet, not super close, not too far, but it definitely made me think. Hole number 9 is 300 feet and uphill. The basket's just in front of that big tree out there. And so it's a pretty Denver-esque hole. A little bit of elevation. You really just want to throw something that finishes back to the left. I'm deciding to go with my Color Glow Strike because I'm really liking these 7 speeds. And I end up actually opening up a little early or maybe late and throwing it a little more right than I wanted. The distance was very good, but it ended up being just inside the circle. And you're actually going to see me be conferring with Jonathan here. He was asking Babbitt if he was inside the circle for his putt, which he had just putted before me, and he says that he was just kind of right on the edge, and so didn't really want to take out the rangefinder again. I knew that I could make these putts that are in that 30 to 35 foot range with the new inline putt that I've been practicing a lot of, so I just wanted to step up and drain it. Luckily, we were able to just sneak it right over the edge. Slight uphill putts are really getting in my head because I want to keep the nose relatively flat, not really throw it nose up, but it got there. Good back-to-back birdies. Let's keep this train rolling. Hole number 10 here is a 717-foot par 4, and this tall grass that you see on the right side should be OB, but it's not playing as OB because we had to play 2 courses in the same day, unfortunately, and that makes this a much easier hole because you can just rip one way out to the right and give yourself a pretty wide-open hyzer look within about 300 feet into the basket. I'm throwing my most stable destroyer just on a slight flex line because I'm feeling very powerful with that, and you're going into a right to left wind. This is a great point from my caddy here. Shout out to Sebastian and Jessica, who were my caddy and film people for the weekend. He's asking me why I didn't just go over the road with the forehand, and that might be a very viable play if that right side was OB, but since it's not OB, there's no reason to do that, no reason to kind of bring in that forehand, especially as I was telling him when I get tired, my forehand gets worse, and it's already not been working, so just knowing your own game can be really helpful. I'm throwing a Firebird here just at a really simple hyzer, but if you listen really closely back to what I said underneath this voiceover, it just slipped off my index finger and it didn't really get a full rip, and that means that it came out a little tiny bit early. But it still leaves us about a 40-foot putt to go back to positive putting for the weekend, to get the turkey, go 3 for 3. The momentum feels very good, so I'm feeling really confident. I really thought that I made that putt because it came in on a slight bit of hyzer. It definitely was right side, so I wouldn't necessarily call that a spit out. I'd say some baskets definitely catch those because of the hyzer angle it came in on, but I don't really like to ever say anything is a spit out unless it's like dead center. Hole number 15 here, sorry, 11, I don't know why I said 15, 651-foot par 4. I'm taking my SDS Destroyer and giving it a slight amount of flex out of my hand, calling to see if it's safe or not because there is that path OB right, and I wanted to just follow that hill down because we're playing into a headwind. Ended up getting the farthest drive of the group, which I think was like one of the only times I did that today on a hole where everyone's actually driving, because Babbitt throws so freaking far and Jonathan throws super far as well, and then Hans just like smoothing it out there right next to me. So it was awesome to be able to play with guys who throw farther than me, but this left me with a really simple 215-foot into the basket on like a 650-foot hole. Really stoked on it. Just going to take a forehand around these trees. I was between Ultra and Firebird and Zone. I decided to go Firebird, and because I went Firebird, I think that I tried to smooth it a little too much, or not even smooth it, just kind of short it, and it lands me in that OB river, which is the path right before the basket, so I have to putt here for a par, miss that, and take a bogey from what is easily the best lie. Looking back at it, I think I probably should have thrown my Ultra, my overstable mid-range. Even though it's a slight headwind, I should have thrown it hard and flat to the left side of that tree and let it finish, because maybe it'll juice it a little bit, but I'm going to get around the tree. I'm not going to worry about like a crazy hyzer and showing too much of the flight plate to the wind. So that's definitely something to realize for next time. Hole 12 is 320 to 340 feet, depending on if you're looking at the C-Sound of the caddy book, and I am throwing a Calvin Destroyer into a headwind. I should have left it a little bit more to the left or even a little bit more turn, but my forehand wasn't feeling very good. As I said, when I'm getting tired, it's not really feeling great. Leaves me with just outside the circle look here with a straddle around this tree. And I'm really frustrated about that putt, mostly because that fell in out of my hands. It's on line perfectly. Just slight lift brings it up over the chains. I really like that putt out of my hand, but that brings me to even for the front 9, because that's the finish of the front 9 there after hole 13. And at this point, I actually started to look at scores and saw that I had dropped down 6 spots to 21st place by shooting even on the front 9, because this is a scoreable course. You're seeing like all these holes are birdieable. Hole 13 real fast, 528-foot par 4. I had just seen all 3 of them throw it into trees, and I was finally able to smack the gap.
That's what I'm talking about. We couldn't go 0 for 4.
Babbitt's saying that we couldn't go 0 for 4. Don't worry, I didn't leave him hanging. We just cut too early. But I have a simple hyzer here with my Pathfinder because we're probably about 280 feet into the basket. It's just in that gap that you can see on the right of your screen. I'm throwing a pushing hyzer with the Pathfinder. A little bit of flip up, gets inside of that tree, and it should leave me with a pretty simple shot or putt for the birdie, which is a really good birdie. Once again, just a testament to the card here. But as I was saying about scoring, I knew that if I would have shot even, I probably would get out of the cash. So I needed to get something going. And I think if I would not have hit that initial gap there, I would have been so frustrated. And this round could have continued in a very poor way. Getting this 3 though, which is a relatively difficult 3 on the course, felt like a great momentum shift. And at this point, I had started looking at the rest of the holes and thinking through what was left, and I was like, I think I can get all of these. I know I could have gotten all the holes, and maybe that should have been my mindset this whole entire round instead of let me get off the course and just be done with this tournament, because I was going to have to play this round regardless. So stepping up to hole number 14, it's 230 feet uphill. I just decided to hyzer for my origin up there, because I know it's probably not going to be too flippy, but I'm not going to not get the distance, and there's a backstop behind the basket, which I found here. Back to a straddle, which you see me bouncing, because it helps me get my legs involved. And we're able to knock that down. So 2 for 2 on the back 9 so far. Trying to go 9 for 9. Beautiful, beautiful scenery. And then once again, real fast, there's just going to be a quick caddy appreciation for Jessica and Sebastian. What a cute little couple. Thank you guys so much for your help this whole entire weekend. Hole number 15 here is an 831 putt par 5. It's definitely eagleable, but we're playing this into a slight headwind. The eagle play is a big turnover because the OB is in the long grass to the left where you see the TD standing. I throw just a simple shot on a forehand with my Calvin Heimberg Destroyer, basically aiming at the TD, knowing that it'll finish. Is a great aim point. And this is where you just got to play your own game plan. Even on a card of these guys who are throwing bombs, they all threw that Anheuser flex line, and Babbitt had like a 380-foot shot in or 360-foot. It's ridiculous on an 830-foot par 5 into a headwind. I just take that same exact Destroyer because we are playing into a headwind this whole time and there's OB right and left. I just throw a tight flex just to that tree, which is going to finish, and I'm ranging here now to 199 feet to the basket. This is how you just play your own game. Don't play anybody else's game. It's especially hard to do that when you're playing with people who you're like, man, that's a really good shot. I want to see if I can do that in a tournament. Just stick to your game plan, and to do that, you probably have to have a game plan going in. But I'm going to throw my zone here. My Crystal Flex zone just on a slight little hyzer. Don't really have to throw it too hard, but it's going to be able to finish for me. But because it's slightly downhill, even into a headwind, and I still am not fully knowledgeable about what my discs are doing, I end up gliding it about 30 long. Like, this is a pretty far putt, and now we have a right to left, which is not my favorite way to putt. So I'm aiming low right pocket because I know that it's probably going to lift it into the chains ideally. Able to drain that putt, which is not one that I really want to leave myself at this point in the tournament because of the amount of holes that I've already played and the amount of accumulated stress that I've had. I really don't want to leave myself any more of those. So stepping up to hole number 16, this is one that I didn't really figure out super well in practice. It's 366 feet with the wind blowing very hard from the right to the left. So I decided to disc up instability so that it will start to become a knifing edge in hyzer instead of really skip. And I throw a pretty simple hyzer with my Calvin Destroyer. Almost skips into the basket, but it leaves us relatively close by with about a 15 to 20 foot putt on the backside. That is such a good birdie. I'm really stoked to be able to do that, trusting that out over the water to go 4 for 4 so far and moves into 17. 327 feet up the hill to the basket there. There's OB long on a cart path. It'll be right in a cart path, but the tall grass to the left is safe, luckily. So honestly, I'm trying to give this one a little bit of an ace run with my strike. Just over in front of the basket, leaves us with a relatively simple putt. I wasn't quite sure how close I was before I walked up there, but this is one that I definitely shouldn't be missing. And luckily we don't, because that would have been commentator's curse in post-production. You know, definitely a real thing. Hole 18 is 560 foot par 4. Relatively simple, like finishing hole if you play this 1 through 18, because you just got to throw a big drive out through this gap, which I'm doing again with that super overstable Calvin Heimberg Destroyer on a flex line, because there's a headwind coming off the lake up onto this hill. Gets punched into the hill, which is pretty solid and leaves me with, I think, 150-ish foot upshot. But now the wind is kind of at my back, pushing towards the basket off the water. I throw my zone because I know it'll get to the ground a little bit better than any of my glidier putters, and I don't really know if that's a great shot because it's kind of blind to me. I'm shrugging right there as I walk up to Sebastian, my caddy, because I really don't know exactly how great that was, and it wasn't that great. I leave myself with about a 20-foot look, which again, I'm really not wanting to have to do at this point in the tournament. My putt has felt good, but one missed circle one putt can start to derail that. Put it in the hardest chains. Really stoked on that. Moves us 6 for 6 on the back 9 after looking at scores. And I'm not one who's a big proponent for looking at scores. Maybe it's something I need to do to help motivate myself if I'm not playing well. I'm not going to try to take this as like this is the hard and fast rule, but definitely a piece of evidence just in case if I check scores again and start playing well, maybe we try to do that. Hole 1 is a 427 foot par 4 because you have to go up to the left and then back to the right, and it's going up into the hill. So I'm throwing my Pathfinder there. Got a little sneaky, meant to go down the right side of that fairway. Went down the left side, which leaves me with a really good lie. I'm kind of just showing where I can mark my mini because it's going towards the basket, not towards the fairway. And I had walked up and saw that the basket was just inside of that first tree that we're able to see just out the gap. I stopped because there's a car that was driving by and it was in the back of my mind. And then I throw what I felt was the absolute perfect shot, but I didn't get any like support or cheers from any of my card mates, and they know the course better than me. So I was like, wait, maybe that's a bad shot. And so I walk up to it. Sure enough, it is like way past that tree, and it's by the next tree down the fairway. So I definitely knew it was by a tree. I probably just should have used my eyes a little bit better. I was ranging at that point and getting like the flicker from 32 to 34. So maybe it's inside, maybe it's outside. But I step up and tell myself after knowing that it's inside the circle, okay, you know how to make this putt. Slightly downhill, just put it in the chains, commit to the shot, you got this. Nice. Super stoked to knock that one home, and that brings us to 20 down through the 4 rounds so far, and 7 for 7 on the back 9. Moves us into hole number 2, 279-foot par 3, and I make a very weird decision here. There's a relatively decent-sized gap, especially if you're throwing a hyzer that's lifting through the flight. I probably would want to just throw a simple Pathfinder shot, maybe even MB, but I'm throwing my Firebird. In practice, this is the shot that I threw, and it went very well. I didn't really even practice the Pathfinder, and I don't really know why I threw that Firebird and liked it, but I thought I was about 45 feet, which I was excited about because I was like, oh, I can get back to positive putting, and I step up, and my putt is inside the circle. So my lie is a lot better than I had thought, but I had been mentally preparing myself for making a circle 2 putt, which has a little bit less stakes because you miss a circle 2 putt, you're like, whatever. But I step up to this 25-foot putt slightly uphill, and you're going to see a little bit of a deviation from my routine. Actually, Babbitt pointed this out to me after the round because I go up and down with nothing in my hand and then with the putter in my hand, but it's still a relatively simple putt. Have really good pace, just nub it. I mean, I don't nub it because of the basket. I nub it because I didn't put it high enough. Probably should have lifted my chest up even a little bit more or just finished even a little bit higher. And that breaks my birdie streak. 7 through 8. 7 in a row is really solid, especially after being even through that front 9. This is basically the tale of 2 9s. But hole number 3 is one that we definitely should be able to get. 525 foot downhill. Just got to make this initial gap. I picked the right side because I've been really liking throwing those low hyzers for some reason to get through low ceiling gaps. And so I throw my Echo Star Destroyer. It flips a lot to the right and gets me pretty far down the fairway. There's a really big left-hand gap to throw a massive anhyzer to try to get close to the pin. But that wasn't something that I was really comfortable doing this weekend, was hitting gaps on anhyzer, or at least to the left of me, that go back to the right. Our shot here leaves us with about 180 feet into the basket, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. Just throw a zone, and I start picking up my stuff because I know it's a good shot. I'm super stoked. That's the end of the tournament, basically. We just have a tap in with that zone to go 8 for 9 after being even through the first 9 holes, checking scores, hitting that initial gap on the 10th hole, tapped in. Massive shout out to the card. Massive shout out to you guys for continuing to watch and support these videos. Thank you so much to Sebastian and Jessica for the weekend. Shout out Hans for using that disc and tapping in. I wanted to see it fly. Wasn't exactly how I wanted, but super great round, everybody. Solid tournament. Ended tied 15th, so I worked my way back up those 6 spots through those 9 holes with a 991 rated round. So I make that putt on 17. It's exactly 1,000 rated. 983 rated tournament at 21 down.
Anthony Bodanza got game.
Massive shout out, Babbitt. Thank you guys so much. Go watch the rest of this tournament. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, love you. Bye.